Hey dudes, welcome back to another episode of our Rhomas Men's Team podcast. You are about to listen to one of our prior team meetings. If you ever want to join one of our live sessions that we have every Monday and Friday, head over to rhomas.com. That's RHOMAS.com and put your email in and we will send you a live link every time we record. We generally record on Mondays and Fridays. So if you ever want to be on the actual podcast, like we bring men up all the time to talk about their goals, talk about their obstacles, etc., head over to rhomas.com. And then also, if you want to help support the channel grow and also have access to exclusive content, book reviews, extra whiteboard sessions, etc., and some coaching sessions, head over to patreon.com and support us. We would love it. But if not, no biggie. We'll see you on the live sessions. Later, dudes. Enjoy this podcast.
We are live and recording, and we're live on YouTube. Yes. Also, I'm going to throw this out there. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Wes. I'm going to throw the link to this in the YouTube. I always try to do that just so people can jump in to the real live stream and not the replication. What up, bro?
Dude, if you don't compliment my headset in front of everybody, like soon,
dude, I'm
leaving. I'll leave.
I just geeked on it, dude. Wes popped on. I'm like, I'm so happy. I instantly happy and then instantly jealous. I'm like, damn it, dude. And your audio is crystal clear.
Yeah. I wonder what the guys think about it. Is the audio good?
The audio is fantastic. I mean, dude, that's just, you're not fucking around.
No more, dude.
Let's put it that way.
2021, bro. Different year.
It's a whole different year, man. I mean, dude, and this is something you brought up to me before we started. And, thinking about, I was thinking about just like the last year and how much I got from, I would say adopting more of your philosophy in terms of productivity and blah, blah, and like, structured productivity, let's say. I like reflected on my year and I was like, God damn, did I get a lot out of that? But what you were talking about is thinking about the times when you would just wake up like hammered and hungover in the morning versus like today waking up, like celebrating a new year, waking up feeling great. And I got to say, man, like I had the same exact thought today. I went for a walk with my dogs at like, first of all, I woke up at like 6:45 today, felt refreshed, felt great. Nice. And then I'm like, I'm just not tired. So I went and took my dogs for a walk and there was nobody who was awake. Literally there was nobody else walking around.
Yep.
Finally, I had the same exact thought. I'm like, dude, I remember just being like, just hammered on New Year's Day. Not even that, like waking up being like, I think I got to keep drinking because everybody wants to keep drinking and being like, oh man. And It's like, it's not like really isn't. It's not like a value judgment because there's people who I feel like alcohol is like a fixture in their life, like all their friends, all their, and like it just like their whole social life kind of revolves around it in a way that I almost like understand. But for me personally, it's like, man, I much prefer not having alcohol being that prevalent of a thing in my life. Like it just, again, I woke up at 6:45, walked my dogs, and I've been feeling great all day. So it's like, or I could be hammered last night, kind of waking up like, what did I do? Like I was remembering it and being like, oh shit, and it's like, man, for me personally, again, this is not like a you should this that. I have tried both. I much prefer an alcohol. I'm an alcohol minimalist. It's like, does it pop up every now and again? Yeah, but it's like maybe one or two drinks, and then even after that, I'm like, ugh.
Oh, so, dude, my New Year used to not start until January 5th. I mean, that's just how it was, and it's like, you want to I want to have goals and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to get on it. And then, I wasn't fully present to the New Year until the 5th, and if I'm wrong, it was the 6th. Just similar to you, no judgment to anybody who's doing that. But if you're thinking that that's a good way of giving yourself momentum of progress, it's the wrong path.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I think if it can be done in a way where, everyone's having fun and everyone's enjoying it, that's one thing. It's just, I just know for a fact, for me, it's like, and maybe it's an age thing, but you get to the point where you're like, yeah, I don't really need this. I can go out and have fun and I don't need to be hammered. I was actually, as I was walking my dogs, it was funny. So I stopped on one of the corners. I was letting my dog sniff stuff, but I'm just looking around. I saw one other person. I was waiting to see another human being. I was like, am I a freak? Like, am I out here on New Year's Day at 6:45, just an absolute freak? Like, there has to be somebody else who's just doing this.
You're like Will Smith in that zombie movie.
I was I Am Legend. Yeah. So I'm like sitting there like, and I just sat there on a corner and just watched kind of people emerge. And I started thinking about like what people bring into the world. I saw one other person walking their dog and I'm like, oh, there you go. And then I saw somebody staggering drunk home. And I was like, oh man. And it just made me think like, I was kind of reflecting on like how every time you walk outside, you're bringing just like a ton of shit with you. And it's like, I started thinking about like, what am I bringing into the world? What have I been? And trying to be conscious of that every time I leave my house. And it's like something cool. I think it was something cool to think about.
Dude, it's amazing how much we look through everything through a filter. And it's so hard to understand that. And I know probably the only guy who's going to understand this is ASB when I say this, but dude, when I'm dancing regularly, I'm a different human when I bring myself into the world. I'm just happy. Like I want to giggle all the time. If I'm not dancing regularly, I can't believe I'm saying this on the internet. If I'm not, it like literally everything. If everything else is great, like I'm hitting the gym and so on, I come into the world with a certain amount of aggression, and that's appealing to me. It's the whole like dark side, and I do believe that like letting your dark side kind of run a certain percentage of your life in terms of like getting after it is important, at least for me. But if I don't add that element of dancing in, I'm just a jerk. Like I come off as like way too hard versus when I am dancing, man, I literally see the world in a different light, and I want to be happy and I want others to be happy. So I completely understand what you're saying when like, what are you bringing into the world every single day?
Yeah, man. And it was for the image of this thing. It was no, I think I might've lost where it was, but I put that hierarchy of kind of consciousness, and dude, it's like when you look at that, let me see if I can pull that up again. Hawkins, letting go. Let me see. I'm going to try to pull this up. I think this is pretty.
Hell yeah, let's do it, man.
Let me see. I think this is pretty good. I kind of like thinking about this. Sorry about that. Sorry for the dead space, but I have to. I think this is worthwhile. This is the one. No, I like this one better. You know what? I'm not going to get picky. I'll just do this one. So, oh, come on.
On a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you like the headphones?
11, dude. Those things are absolutely fantastic. All right, awesome. Here we go. I'm going to share the screen if I can figure that out. There we go. All right, I'm going to do an echo. All right, there we go. Share. Oh boy, it's just multiplying into infinity. There we go. All right. So it's this thing right here. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's shame, guilt. This is like, they have a thing where it's like, let's see if I can find the better version of it, the one I use for the thing. But either way, they have a thing where they kind of have, I like the numbered one better, where, whatever, I'll just keep it like this. No. Come in. So they have guilt, shame. They say like this is like the top thing in terms of like, if you're walking around like an enlightened kind of like Buddha type person versus like the very bottom shame. Let's just, for all intents and purposes, say like a person waiting in the bushes to rape somebody, if there was ever kind of a split in terms of consciousness. So it's like there's shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, and they're saying like you're like even being angry is better than just kind of walking around being guilty. And if you're kind of stuck in this realm of like, let's say everything underneath fear, you're stuck in a realm of kind of inaction, which is like you want to do all this stuff, but you won't because you're scared of whatever. And dude, it's like what I started thinking about today, this like the amount, I would say, and maybe this is, I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like the majority of people are stuck in this inaction realm. And it's a place I've been in before, and it's very frustrating and it sucks. But I like how they say like what you experience as a direct parallel with your consciousness level. So if you're just kind of if fear kind of rules your life, you're kind of stuck in inaction. And they're saying you can even get out of that, like you were saying, Wes, like kind of letting like parts of your dark side rule. It's like sure, you can get that, and you can start to kind of get out of inaction, but then it's like and I don't think this is like applies to everybody or it's 1-to-1, but for me personally, when I'm kind of running off of like, let me just push through, and I'm kind of like letting fear dictate, but I'm kind of running on that as like a fuel source, if that makes sense. It's like I get in a bunch of hyperactive, like I do a bunch of stuff, but nothing really happens. And that, it's kind of like you experience hyperactivity. And they're saying you don't really start to to produce until you have the courage, which is the where you're like, this thing just changes over from force to power. Until you actually have the courage to do the things you want to do. And then you start to experience a ton of different stuff. And then you can go all the way up the scale with that. But I thought that's a cool visual. And it's something
it's amazing.
I really, really like it. It's something I've been bringing to mind a lot. And, again, it's like when you really think about the sheer amount of people who are stuck in that inaction in this realm of like not doing anything per se, like they're doing stuff, but it like in terms of like, how much does that line up to what you want to do? Pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to look up that after. For the guys who are listening and not seeing the visual, can you repeat what that graph was again?
Yeah, the graph would be, let me see, I have so the graph is like it kind of rank orders levels of consciousness and then puts it right up against what you experience as a result of your level of consciousness. So, and it kind of has it where, let me see, I have to pull it back up again. Every time I try to explain it, I get kind of lost in it. But
yeah, it's very interesting for those people listening. If you could imagine kind of like a bar chart, just a column, and it has these levels of that column. So starting from the bottom, it's the most negative type of mindset, all the way up to the top, that being the most positive. And then at different intervals of that bar, immediately next to it, you have a pyramid. And so, like, let's say that the 5 bottom negative emotions translate to the pyramid next to it being, and I forget because Matt is trying to pull it up now, but it's a very interesting, you're kind of putting 2 charts next to each other and relating them. It's very interesting. I love the visual.
Yeah, I have the better one, I think, right here. But yeah, dude, I'm going to put it on. I still am working on here it is. I'm still working on my, whatchamacallit, my hero board. It's going to be kind of like a larger overarching kind of vision board, but it's going to be like people I admire, like, different writers, different people who've done different stuff, just pictures of all of those people. And then I'm going to have my vision board on there with just like things that I think are kind of like, I want to kind of embed in my consciousness. So
hell yeah.
Here is the thing right here. Here's the one that I kind of prefer. And this is the downside of having 19 million windows open all the time. I have so many tabs and so many documents open every single day. Here we go. So I'm going to share this screen, and we're there. Oh my gosh. All right. My screen shared? No.
All
right, good. Because I lost my thing. Oh. Okay. You know what? I'm going to have to just sit here. Oh, here, dude, it's right in the Discord. I'm such a fucking idiot. All right. So here we go. This one, share, and then when I'm in the Discord. So this is the picture right here. It's kind of small, but Wes, that's what you're explaining. There's kind of an arrow that's going from, they say like shame is a 20, peace is 600, and the max say you can go is 1,000. People are operating on like 20 or 30. Like if you want to rank order your level of consciousness, fear is 100. And if anger, they say is like 150, courage is 200, then trust is 250, optimism is 310, forgiveness is 350, understanding is 400, and on and on and on, love 500, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it really is. It's just what you experience and then what your consciousness level is. And if you're, one of the key tells in terms of my personal life has been, are your thoughts typically occupied with judgmental thoughts about other people? And if you say yes, then it's typically you're projecting a bunch of insecurities you haven't dealt with yourself. And then it's like, once you can like stop worrying about what everyone's doing or just getting lost in like the spectacle of like, oh my God, can you believe, I don't know, DMX got arrested or some bullshit. And it's just like, okay,
examples. I love your examples.
People lose. I tried to use anyone but that, but it was like, nope, you're using this one. So I was like, think of something else. But it's like you can get lost in the spectacle of like, oh my God, can you believe that thing you saw on social media? Oh my God, can you believe this? Look at that person. It's typically you're not dealing with yourself. And once you kind of get over that and start to like, put stuff together, you start to experience a totally different world. And it's like, I do think that stuff's kind of true. And it's, so I'm going to, either way, I'm not going to ramble about that, but that's definitely going up on the board. And I'm going to constantly try to remind myself.
Dude, I'm going to study that graph, that chart. Number one, the content of the chart, those 2 charts are phenomenal. And then number 2, I like the concept of that. I'm thinking of so many things I can communicate through those two graphs and relating them together. That was phenomenal, man.
Dude, it's the book.
You started off 2021 like a fucking champ, man.
Thank you, dude.
I didn't expect anything less, but it's just you never.
Whole different year, bro. And dude, write it back at you. I was like, all morning, I was like, all right, we're gonna do the stream. I was like, how can I deeply thank Wes for turning me on to just tightening this bolt on me that was just so loose, dude. And it's just kind of like, dude, I cannot thank you enough. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, I wanted to simultaneously thank you while also telling everybody, like, just for showing up in this, the role you're playing is enormous, because otherwise it would just be me and Wes talking to each other, which we did for the first month of this, and I still enjoyed immensely. But like, just having everyone here, just, man, it just like ratchets everything up to a point that it just gets me pumped up and energized. So,
oh, hey man, no, right back at you, dude. And just out of curiosity, are you still on? You're still on Brown Street, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this power headset's coming to you, brother. You can test it out if you want it. The power of the one-click Amazon.
Oh, I can't wait, dude.
So test it out. If it's not for you, you can always send it back. But yeah, just dude, a little man gift coming your way, man.
I know that thing's for me, dude. I saw it and I said, that thing I might just fake the funk to the meantime. So, dude, here's something I am. So in terms of there's a couple orders of business in terms of stuff I wanted to kind of talk about, but
hell yeah.
So I've been meditating again. You kind of nudged me back into the meditating thing, but like, I've been really hitting the 20-minute things. This morning I did a 30-minute meditation.
Oh, nice,
dude. I use it now to basically organize my entire day now is organized around what I kind of meditate, like what pops up while I'm meditating. And like just yesterday, I had this kind of looming to-do list and all of these different things. And then, it's like you have your things you consciously think about, and then you meditate for 20, 30 minutes. And just like, dude, ideas just pop up out of nowhere, to the point where yesterday I had the idea to start like recording guided meditations for doing it myself. And dude, so that was just like, that's now part of the agenda. It's just weird that your daily agenda can spring up from just sitting there and following your breath, essentially. But while I was doing it today, the one thing I really thought about, because I was kind of like, whenever I'm meditating, I'm torn between like, a torrent of what I perceive as like awesome, cool ideas. And then the thing you're supposed to do, in my opinion, which is just follow your breath and work on completely disregarding all those cool ideas, or, maybe anxiety producing ideas, or even ideas that are like, oh, this would be awesome if you did this. But the idea of kind of like following your breath, and I was using it yesterday, how you can like be in an agitated state, and if you just kind of ignore the thoughts for a while and just focus on breathing correctly in terms of like in through the nose, out through the mouth, all the way down to your stomach, not through your chest, like it literally will calm your body down. So like, rather than thinking to calm your body down, which typically just multiplies your thoughts and you think more and get yourself more pumped up, or just kind of like whacked out, if that's what's going on, you can literally just breathe. And it's like kind of counterintuitive and almost gets lost in that kind of like Instagram philosophy of like, just breathe and let it go. And it's like, when someone's saying that to you and you don't understand it, it's almost infuriating. Like, dude, shut up. But the idea is, if you just let go of your thoughts, like, just, you don't need to think all the time. It's almost like you don't think about it. So you're thinking if you do, but it's like, dude, so either way, I know I'm talking a lot, but this morning, dude, I had a really great morning. The idea of like, so I'm meditating and, I'm thinking like, damn, this is awesome. This is great. It's kind of shaping my whole day. So I start thinking about, change, like, how does change come about as I'm meditating? And I had this idea, it just sprung up, that change is something that happens in the past. If it makes sense, change is something that happens in the past that you experience in the future. And all you can really do is kind of fuel it in the present moment with by constantly sealing deeds in the past, act like wins, basically. And when you get into meditation, it's like, I don't even really understand it. But it's like, for some reason, that idea resonates with me. I think it helps people get away from like the immediate gratification disguised as change. When it's like, I just want to be this, I want to be that. And it's like, hey, that's cool, but like, that's going to take a long time. Like, dude, we started the goals thing a year ago. Well, correction, I started doing that with you a year ago. And I now am like, just kind of feel like I'm getting my feet underneath me. And that was a year of like, trying, kind of straying from it, going back, straying from it. It's like, dude, I feel I'm like a little baby in this. I'm like, dude, I'm so excited. Like I got a lot under my, a lot of stuff has changed in a year, but it's like, dude, I can for sure like keep doing this every year, and I'm excited.
Oh, dude, hell yeah. Number one, I completely agree with you. And I love when Ray takes our quotes and puts them up there. It's so awesome. You have officially been quoted by the Dogfather.
That's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted. But it's like, the meditating thing's weird how it's just like, you have the ideas you construct actively in your mind, but if you just let go of all of them, other, in my opinion, kind of deeper ideas pop up. And it's like, it gives me the willies.
Completely agree.
It gives me the willies.
Dude, let me get a tissue real quick. Completely agree with you. And one of the reasons that I started meditating was because Ray Dalio, I was always kind of on the edge, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to work for me. And the people who were explaining it to me, I didn't necessarily want to be like. It's kind of like a vegan telling you to eat vegetables. You're like, I'm not going to listen to anything you say because you're vegan.
Yeah.
But then eventually I heard Ray Dalio, who runs the largest hedge fund in the world, say that he does meditation for 40 minutes a day, two times a day, 20 minutes per session. And Matt, he described it exactly. You articulated better than he did, but he described it how you described it. Like it allowed him to get his kind of intellectual mind out of the way and his subconscious mind to really start to do the work. And he says that's the part of the brain that has the most horsepower. And he's like, I can't explain it beyond that. He's like, but when I have a challenging problem, I go to meditate. He's like, I come out with a solution. And I completely agree with you, man. I think it's, again, outside of sleep, like you and I have talked about, outside of sleep, it's the number one thing. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, dude. No, 100%. And it's something that it's very funny when I would go, oh man, I have too much to do today. I don't have the time. It's like, by not meditating, let's say you look at that graph, the levels of consciousness, like for me personally, again, I'm not trying to like be like, you must do this, but for me personally, I can either just spend the 20 minutes I need to spend or 30 minutes, whatever it is, and then I'm operating on a kind of different wavelength, or I can like convince myself I'm too busy and spend like 6 months spinning my wheels and like frustrated, spazzy work attempts where I'm also kind of like, hiding from stuff here and there, not dealing with other stuff. And it's like, man, dude, I'm telling you, it really works. It's really frustrating. And it's almost like when you start doing it, you're seeking that the thing you're actually seeking out, in my opinion, is that frustration. You want to come head to head with that and then go like, oh, this is frustration. And then continue dealing with it. And like, it almost starts to energize you. Like I get so bored while I meditate. I'm like, God damn, I can't wait to do stuff, but I'll force myself to keep doing it and keep channeling that energy and keep overcoming that feeling. And then you get out of it and you're like, holy shit, I feel, really comfortable. I just feel like energized and peaceful.
You and Ray Dalio are mega minding right now because he said, on my normal days, I meditate for 20 minutes. He's like, and when I'm really busy, I meditate for 40 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, no, I completely agree with you. It is obviously your mind is what is experiencing all of these situations you're going throughout the day. So like sharpening that mind and increasing its ability to absorb the stimulus throughout the day, the week, the month, the year. That's the number one thing. That's 90% of the importance of the I would say, how do I say this? It is the most important tool that you have in your body. So the fact that it took me so long to not start to learn how to build that tool and work that muscle is insane to me. So anybody listening to this, it's like, if you're not on the meditation game, 100% get on it. 100%.
Yeah. No, really, there's not there's nothing I can say to like, don't, there are people that, and I think they're few and far between who like, they like just spaz themselves out when they get into like some form of silence. Like it just is like way, way uncomfortable. But I think they're few and far between. And if that's the case, then, definitely that's something to just be considered and worked on as well.
Yeah. And Brent is saying that Seinfeld is a TMOG. Yeah. So funny, Brent, that you say that. And it would be cool actually to get Brent on today. He's a new Rhomas member.
True.
And I'm super pumped. He's come on the practice sessions, like a true beast. And, but yeah, Seinfeld was saying how much TM was a part of his life. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
TM's the 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night with like that kind of thought stopping or thought replacement thing or whatever.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That my only kind of beef with TM a little bit is it seems like they made it pretty corporate, like they put it under the business engine, which is fine, totally fine. But it's taking something that's very basic, or not basic, but it's, I don't know, it's more elementary. And the fact that apparently they like go after people. Like if you try to teach it at all, you try to give like any hints around it, apparently they will sue you.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why
kind
it's kind of hard to find instruction on YouTube about it, which is very fascinating.
Yeah, it's something that needs to give way in 2021, man. People just doing that kind of getting monopolies on like breathing. It's like, dude, come on, man. And there is, I'm sure, again, if you meditated for 50 years and came up with all these insights and stuff, I just find it hard to believe you would do that and then reach that level and be like, I'm going to sell this. It's like, you fucking dick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, or at least provide extra value, because I obviously totally believe in capitalism. But the only thing is like, from what I have heard, it seems like there starts to get in, like they have the actual practice of the meditation, but then it seems like the extra value that is provided, again, I don't know, because I think the cost is like $1,000 minimum, and I have considered doing it, but now I think I know enough about it to where, you know, I don't know that the value will be there, because what I heard was they give you a mantra, and the mantra is very customized, etc. And that apparently is one of the major things that you're paying for. It's like, oh, don't tell anybody this mantra, it's yours. And that's where I get into like, I don't think that's worth $1,200. I think somebody just said it's worth $1,200 in the comments.
Yeah, Chalupa Cobb likes it. I mean, yeah, I'm the same way. Hopefully I can get myself to the point where I manifest so much abundance that I'm not sweating the 1,200. And I'm like, yeah, let me give this a spin. But it's you know, I'm similar. I think you can. I always like to think, and this is why I really like the psychological flexibility stuff from ACT, is where the guy took, Stephen Hayes wanted to take those ideas that are super beneficial, but that can only be kind of afforded by people who can do like 7-day like silence retreats, and be like, what is it specifically that works about that stuff? And how could I teach that to somebody in like, 2 hours?
Yep,
and it's
exactly.
Or at least the beginning of it. And I swear I wasn't able to really grasp the idea of what I was supposed to be doing when I was meditating until I learned the ACT stuff. Like when you told me that like I didn't need to like interact with my thoughts, or that like my thinking mind was something separate than like my observing self. I didn't know that till like 6 months ago. And I learned that, and I'm like, well, that's pretty nice. I wish someone fucking told me that 20 years ago. Be great.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Well, that's why you're doing such a great service and value add with PsychNaw. I mean, that's like dude, you're so spot on with that. So I recently started going to counseling, and going through counseling, having somebody to talk it out with. Holy shit. And then they give you these exercises, and you're like, why is this the first time I'm doing this exercise? And by the way, I'm paying $200 an hour for that counseling versus like what you're doing. Oh man. Spot on.
Appreciate that. And I do think Chalupa Cabra is saying like, and I think he brings up a good point. He said paying for a teacher is like paying for guitar teachers, like how serious are you about learning? And it's like, yeah, again, if someone is like ready to invest in themselves in that regard, and I don't want to put like a bitter taste about that. I do agree. I think Wes brings up a very fair point, being like, come on, man, like, don't be so doggish about it. Because at certain points, you'd be surprised how much you can open up when you just kind of like stop trying to block things off like that. But, and again, yeah, if someone is like, hey, man, I'm into it, I want to spend the money, I'll get the value, that's fine too. I'm really trying to get out of that like good, bad mentality. But I do see, personally, I had the same beef Wes is bringing up, with the TM thing that I also share. I have that beef with, it's not like a end all be all beef, but it's like with therapy, it's like, it's just, these are human beings communicating. And, it's like, yes, there's someone who trained and is specialized, but it's such a fundamental basic need that I do get kind of like a little bit annoyed when it's behind such a wildly unaffordable paywall. That's something I go like, all right, like, come on, there has to be a way to teach this to everybody, because it'd be so massively beneficial.
Yeah. And I think there's an element of a value ladder. right? Like building up the value ladder. Honestly, I'm proud of us for doing, Matt, what you and I are doing. It's like, give as much as you can out there to benefit as many people as possible. Then for the next level of value, you can have the Patreon account and so on. But we never want anybody to feel like you're holding so much back and it's like you have to unlock this secret. It's like, no, if you want to take it the next step up in the value ladder and do our practice squad together, like all of those types of things. And that's why we even say, hey, by the way, if you can't afford the Patreon, like just let us know. Like you can come on the practice session. Like the internet allows us to produce that much value and eventually be compensated for it in a way that makes us all happy. It's a win-win-win for everybody, even the people who, quote, cannot afford it. Because if you think about, let's say TM is like just this unbelievably amazing and valuable thing. Well, like there's a lot of kids in West Philadelphia who would benefit phenomenally from it, but they can't afford $1,000 or $1,200, whatever it is. So like, why can't we have a part of capitalism that does it like the model that you and I are mimicking, right? Like, hey, we have a value ladder for the people who can't afford it, great. Or you have a free, no barrier to entry model. And then from there, people can escalate that value ladder. And for anybody who can't participate it because they're down on their luck or they're just not there economically yet, then hey, let the organization know. In our case, like that Matt and I know, and you can participate on it. Like the goal is to produce as much value as possible. So I just wish some organizations, and kind of like the TM organization, that they would consider that. And maybe they already do. I don't know enough about the organization. So.
No, that's fair. And ASB brings up a fair point. He's like, we do have that, it's YouTube where you have to watch ads or the library. That is true. But there's also like, this is something I've, started to think about. There are some people, and I would even include my family in this, who like this stuff is so out of the realm of their awareness that they don't even know it exists. So it's like, not even that, but like, how can you break it down in a way where it's like, if you take the average, you just say like blue collar family, and this typically is explained by like a dude who's just like sucking on a crystal in like a dashiki, they're instantly going to be like, I'm done. I can't, this is too weird. So like, again, how can you just try to, again, think of where you can create value and kind of bring it to as many people. And I really like the idea and of this, like, what I think the internet allows is not non-coercive economics, where it's like, you don't have, because if you try to password protect everything and hide it, like, everyone can steal stuff on the internet. Yep. So really you're more dealing with like people's goodwill, and that kind of is a two-way street. If you're like, hey, I'm trying to do, I'm going to do as much as possible while dealing with the reality that we all need money to exist. So like, let me try to like, cultivate a goodwill agreement and produce a ton of value. And then to say, hey, if you like it, toss me a couple bucks. And it's like, human beings are naturally pretty cooperative, and they typically will do that, surprisingly. Like, you don't have to like twist their arm. You can just be like, hey, I'm doing this for free if you want to pay. And if it's valuable enough, a lot of people will.
No, I completely agree. I think what you're referring to, I think is great. Goodwill economics or goodwill capitalism, I think, is a phenomenal model. Plus, honestly, dude, I don't know about you, but for me, it feels better.
Yeah.
Like it just feels better. There have been a few guys who come on the practice squad who don't have the funds to participate. And that's awesome. Like that, I'm excited that they are there. It's like, hell yeah, man. So like, yeah, goodwill economics, I think, is a great model. And to be fair, the internet is really what allows that to happen. Mm-hmm. In the past, to entrepreneurs in the past, you couldn't make it happen because, the business would go down. There's just not enough scalability. There's not enough leverage. But now we've got this tool called the internet, which is basically free and allows us to reach people all over the world, which is still blows my fucking mind. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually, that's not me. I'm more of a shark, dude. I close a deal any means necessary. I'm more of a boardroom shark. I love that idea, dude.
So I wanted to see if we can maybe bring Brent on as the new member, and I think we've got a handful of new members on the Discord as well. And I apologize for not bringing those guys up, but Brent has showed up a couple days to the practice squad, and I'm excited to have him on the team. So if he's available, Brent, Matt's going to send you a link. I don't know exactly how it works, but he's going to send you a link. You should get it on here, and then it's up to you if you want to come on. He's saying yes.
You say yes, or you say I'm cool as in no thank you? Well, either way, I'll send you a link. Oh, here we go. Nice.
Let's do it, man.
I was like, you dick. He's like, I'm cool.
Embarrassing, man.
Yeah, man, I am pumped, man. I'm pumped for 21, especially just moving through this kind of, I've been really moving through this way of being super. It's almost like a path of acceptance where you're not just like laying over and like, oh, whatever. You're accepting what's going on. You're also, going full force into whatever's occurring in a way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool.
What up, Brent?
Welcome, brother.
Hey, guys. Is my mic working? Everything good?
Yeah, man.
Sweet.
Well, it's no headset with boom mic, but we can make it.
Yeah, I got to up my Zoom game. I was looking at cameras. I don't know if I guess I got to get a mic too, but yeah, stoked to be here. Happy to have found this group through Ray. Shout out to him. I think it's exactly what I need and what I've been, looking for, I guess I would say, for almost for a while now, because it's become increasingly clear, especially over this past year, which has really been one of isolation and disconnection for myself, of needing to be part of a group versus just trying to focus on self-development on my own. So I don't know how much time I have. I won't go on and on, but I'll give you maybe a 2-minute spiel of kind of my story. Why I'm really interested in hanging out with you guys and being on this journey together. Fucking it's one of my pet peeves, that word journey, but that's what it is.
I have a complicated relationship with that word as well. It's a perfect word. When I say it, I'm like, God, I feel like a girl in yoga pants.
Yeah, but that's what it is. And but a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, notes, turned 40 this year. I would say my life on paper looked pretty damn good up until about 5 years ago. I worked in commercial real estate for 10 years, $500,000 in the bank, had the car, girls weren't a problem. Always loved to party since, I was quite young. Around 35, the bottle really turned on me. Really over the course of the summer. I mean, I was a daily drinker, not so much in the morning or during the day, but every night. I would never, for years, I'd have a bottle of wine minimum. That would be the base, and never a problem until 35. Never got into trouble. Wasn't a blackout kind of drinker. Mm-hmm. But 35, I don't know, something happened, just probably physically more than anything. Started going into bad withdrawals. I was fully dependent. So that kind of kicked off my recovery. Something had to be done because I was going to die. Like I was going into severe withdrawals, kind of DT shit.
Jesus.
What is DT?
Delirium tremens.
Is that like the shaking or no?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be shaking, hallucinating. You could have a heart attack, a seizure.
Oh shit! Okay.
You can die. I mean, it's alcohol is kind of one of those things. Like, you won't die from an opiate withdrawal. You'll want to kill yourself, but you will actually die from alcohol withdrawal if you're that physically dependent.
Yeah, I think alcohol and benzos are the two substances you can die of withdrawal from.
Yeah. So that kind of kicked off a process of certainly self-discovery and an interest in self-development, and kind of hit me pretty quick that I was a 35-year-old child and needed to grow up. And not to say that I put down the drink the last time 5 years ago and it's been smooth sailing since. Quite the opposite. It's been a pretty rocky road. But I think the longest I had was maybe a year and a half. But I've never kind of strayed away from a interest in not just recovery in a broad sense, but self-development and improvement. Because I think a lot of certainly the the external money or girls, that stuff came pretty easy, and I never really had to develop the skills such as self-discipline, routine. I was very focused up until my 30s of, I think I was sharing earlier in our Zoom call of, I wanted a life of no structure, no routine, answer to no one, need no one, and just have that, my idea of a rock star lifestyle. And it was pretty hollow when I more or less achieved it on a small scale. And then certainly the addiction really cut me in half. So I guess to get back to why I'm here and really interested in this group is, well, certainly over the past 5 years, been a couple rehabs which weren't cheap. I haven't been working, so I'm fully broke, going through a bankruptcy, in fact. And I racked up so much debt while I tried to rein in my lifestyle spending. There is no going back, especially once the pandemic hit. So, I'm kind of in this place, especially the past year of, the chart you put up really blew me away. I'm like looking at the bottom things of fear, grief, guilt, shame equals inaction. I mean, that's, it seems so obvious when you look at it. But that's where I've been for, more or less, I wouldn't say every day, but more days than not, in a depression and just feeling that stuckness where I know what to do. I've read, 100 self-help books, everything from, big Jordan Peterson fan to Tony Robbins, whatever it is. And it's not a lack of knowledge, or even desire or motivation. It's this, just something, this fear, and I think a baggage of shame that's been holding me back, at least in my attempt to do it on my own. So, whether it's writing out the, daily goals, having a daily planner where your day is structured hour by hour, as I've been trying to implement that in some form on my own, gotten no results.
Yeah.
I can look at the past year and I have learned nothing really. I've done nothing really. Now, so the pandemic, I could give myself a little bit of, space to say it's not a typical year, at least not here in Toronto. We've had some pretty full-on lockdowns.
Well, there's the one thing too I want to talk about, because what you're saying is
before the pandemic started, I was still I've just had such really almost traumatic failures. Tried to cut a house, a couple of years ago, couldn't stay sober, lost a shit ton of money on that. It's just been a kind of a series of losses, both, I would say tangible and emotional. And because for most of my life up until recently, I very much equated, I think, my self-worth with, how sick is my car, what do I got in the bank?
Yeah,
right.
Well, this is the first thing I thinking about the idea of I don't want any structure. I want this. I want to be kind of master of my own domain. I agree. That when you said that, I was like, oh God, yeah, that was like my entire philosophy of life. And the same thing, I kind of achieved some semblance of that at a really young age, and it was super empty. And it was like, I had those things, but I didn't cultivate all of the inner resources that I truly needed. I kind of was able to curtail them through a little, some craftiness and, some recklessness on my part. And it's like, when you have all that outer stuff, if you don't have the inner resources, it almost can feel kind of like, well, what the fuck, and then, the compensation, which it could be like, alcohol really is a great compensation for, when the inner courage isn't fully there. So, I remember when I used to only socialize drunk from the time I was in high school to after college pretty much. And then I stopped drinking after college, and I had to go be social. And I realized I was horrible at it. I was like, I didn't know how to do it, to go as myself and be high. Like I would sit and look at people, a crowd of 4 people talking in a circle, and it might have well been like a 50-foot wall. I'm like, there's no way I can just be like, hey, like I'm like, what do I like go under their arms? I would just sit there and look at them like, how do you know? So yeah, there is that, and there's also the idea of like, and I don't think this is any one person's fault at all. I think it's just the way kind of things are set up. But this idea, like I'm going to do this by myself, and it's like, I don't think it's not necessary at all. And it's also like, it's just better to do it with other people, whether you did it by yourself or not. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I think this, like for me, I'm learning now that for me, like fitness is something I need other people with. Left to my own device, like I want to, I want to get my fitness stuff up. I want to do this. The time that I was the most consistent was when I was on like an app with like some sort of challenge where other people were all working at this similar thing and you can like compete and do stuff. So yeah, I really think like, and it's kind of the points are kind of tangential and spread across, but like, if you think about what you're describing, I think your story is kind of common. I know I have similarities with it. But it's like, if these inner things, these base level, like fear, guilt, shame type stuff aren't addressed, alcohol, you just pour alcohol on it and you're like, oh, this is working functionally, but the price will be paid kind of later on. So, I'm pumped to have you. And I really appreciate you sharing your story, man. Cause I think that's something, it resonated with me while you were telling it. And it's one of the, as you were saying that, especially when you said like, now I'm broke, like I laughed in my head because I've been up and I've been like had money, been broke so many times that I'm like, oh, I'm kind of excited for you. You're telling me you're broke. Oh, yeah. Nice, dude. I'm like, this will be fun then.
I think I can look back on things and, I don't think I was going to get sober until I had lost a fair bit.
Mm-hmm.
Even like, I don't think I would have had a desire to have even attempted to completely go, teetotal until, it had to take its pound of flesh. Where I'm at now is, I've been making use of the food bank down my street. So it's not to say my life is, I'm just as, nothing's different. It's nice to not be stressed about money. But almost a bigger problem than, the sobriety or, for right now where I'm at of, so not thinking of having a drink. Certainly I haven't even felt that depressed for the past 2 weeks. I think I really snapped out of it for whatever reason. But this idea of inaction and, just kind of a lack of a process, a lack of, I'm going to put in the work regardless of how I feel or what's going on, is something that, has been on my radar, and there's a lot of what I'm reading these days for really the past year, but I'm just reading. I'm just reading new books. And I'm not doing the work. For an example, I've been, basically attempting a career change from commercial real estate into design and tech, which has always been a long-term kind of passion of mine, but requires, developing a portfolio, and, I got at least, let's say, 50 hours ahead of me before I can apply for jobs.
Yep.
And I can't believe 2020 is over, because it was a year ago. Like the year starting, I'm like, all right, I've been fucking off, trading Bitcoin for 2019. That was my last big loss. Shocker.
Thank you for telling everybody that, by the way, because I can't really comment a bunch because my profession is in finance and I've got licenses on the line. I'm not saying I support nor deny that sentiment, but I can tell you that I appreciate the comment that you just told the men.
It was one of those things. I was aware of the risk, aware of, whatever the statistic is, 99 point whatever percent of people attempting to day trade lose money. But I figured, fuck it, maybe I'll be that, because obviously I'm special, and I'm going to be that 1%.
Yeah, it's a delusion we all share.
In a nutshell, a number of expensive lessons over the past couple of years. And And yeah, I'm just trying. I think I got some work to do in the journal to really confront that grief and the shame that I fucking really did lose all that money. Jesus Christ! I mean, it's a hard kind of thing to really even wrap my mind around.
Well, can I say something real quick? I also know, like, there's almost, when you're telling me this story, there's almost this like mythical perfection to it, where like you had all the money, you had all this stuff, and then like it's dude, I've lost like 40 grand like that, like in the snap of fingers, like where it was all my money, and boom, I have $0, and it's like with all that money, you also lost like an alcohol dependency, which pretty good. I would say that's worth anything really. That's your life. So it's like, I've beaten myself up about, I can sit there and just like calculate sums forever. They go, oh man, all kinds of stuff, that I did and spent money on that I could have now. And I don't, it's more money than I currently have, put it that way. So it's like, but I'm very happy right now with what I have and, the life that I built. But it's like, sometimes things that you think are like, oh my God, how did I lose this, are better off being gone, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess I'm reminded of, saying, I think your first loss is your best one. You learn from them. You learn from all failures. And just to be clear for guys also listening, when I had the money and the car and the girls and all that, the last year I was just isolating myself, drinking myself to death. That's all I wanted to do. Like there was, then, it kind of got what I wanted. Another zero behind, would have been great. But, I'd been to all the beaches. I'd, done all that shit. And it was just still that, when the booze stopped working as a solution to low self-worth to begin with, it was just so clear that another big deal at work wasn't going to do anything.
Yep.
The new girl wasn't going to do anything. In any case, I'm in a good place these days. By these days, I mean the last 2 weeks, basically.
Dude, count it, man. In the bucket. I'm feeling, I guess, optimistic and some hope. I think for the first time, maybe this whole fucking year, where I'm like, all right, I've known what it needs to be done for a while now. I'm once again I've bottomed out and I'm ready to do what needs to be done. So what's going to be different this time? Well, I'm not going to try and do it alone. Yep, there you go.
So, maybe I'm happy to go on and on about myself.
No, dude, I think you summed it up.
That's enough for now.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I comment? Is that cool?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. So, and I know you know this, Brent, at this point, but for the guys listening, there is a major difference. In my opinion, the intellectual answer is not the answer. The answer is emotionally built rather than intellectually found, at least in my opinion. So you could read books through eternity about how to ride a bike, but that will never, ever, 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 ever come even close to emotionally and physically, biochemically understanding of actually how to ride the bike. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't read about how to ride the bike and how to optimize it, but those two are very separate things. I think one of the things we've talked about here on the podcast in the past, that Matt and I have said, is like, we want to be practitioners first, philosophers second. And I think a lot of people get the inverse of that, especially on the internet. Like the amount of, and Brent, you know this, like going through and learning from the gurus, like we talked about yesterday. Dude, the amount of gurus that I've seen up on stage acting like they've got all of their shit together, but they've got 50 pounds of extra, belly fat hanging over their belt buckle. That to me is like, you're practitioner, dude. I'm sorry, you're philosopher, you're not practitioner. And the other thing is like, totally cool to have 50 pounds of extra belly fat hanging over your belt buckle if you're not claiming to be the guru of all gurus. We are, like we've said here on the podcast in the past, this team is a circle, it's not a triangle, right? Like we all have our flaws, we're all going through our rough patches, every single one of us in any given day. And the fact that you actually stepped up and shared your story, I mean, that right there is valuable. Because one of the things that I said to you, it's just like where I learned from me emotionally, was shortening the feedback loop of value. because I was working on a whole bunch of like big projects, like writing the book or like doing this thing or like wanting to get to $1 billion in assets under management. Like all of those things were multi-year, if not multi-decade goals. But what that did for me is like it made me disassociate to the actual feedback mechanisms that our bodies and brains, in my opinion, are meant to feel. Right? Like we're meant to be hunters. Like we go out hunting today, we kill something, we eat it tonight. Like that feedback mechanism is very short. But we now have a much longer frontier to reach, you know, especially like the more intellectual that we get. So the more books that we can read on these topics, it's like, yeah, like I want to own the $1 billion company. I want to have the yacht and so on. Well, then it's like, well, then you get no feedback until like 8 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So no wonder we go and we seek out the things that give us that feedback, especially biochemically, whether it be alcohol or sex, whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now those things lack substance, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, we need little Pac-Man pellets, I think. Where you're like the little
nice
little dots all the way along the way.
That's why Matt's awesome. Pac-Man pellets. We need more Pac-Man pellets. That's exactly the answer.
Yep.
But then also, I think you're spot on, Brent and Matt. It's like, dude, having a team, those are the Pac-Man pellets, right? Like Brent, you just telling your story in the last 5 minutes, you have no idea how much value that just delivered to other people who are going through something similar or have gone through something in the past or have experienced in the past. So that right there, value feedback loop done, right? Like instantaneously as you're telling your narrative, guys listening to this, including myself, are like, fuck, like, hell yeah. That helps us course correct at least 1 degree. And you're right, man. You don't have to do this alone. Like as you well know. And again, that's the intellectual side. Now let's get the emotional side, and that we're all putting together. It's like just keep showing up for the practice sessions. And by the way, dude, I guarantee you, you're gonna miss some. You might miss one tomorrow, or Monday, whatever it is. That's just part of the fucking process. But I just learned that Michael Jordan, arguably the best basketball player in human history, he missed 50% of his shots. Like 50%. That's for the best in history, which also, by the way, simultaneously is pretty impressive too. Like if you know basketball, that's like 50% of your field goals.
It's pretty crazy. Impressive. Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Pretty crazy. But just for in general in life, he failed 50% of the time. Like that's insane. That is insane. That's for the best in human history. My failure rate, I'm convinced, is 70%. Easily 70%. Yeah. But having a group of guys where like we've kind of hacked the system, right? Like having a group of guys to say like, it's almost even more valuable to share your losses, like to a certain degree. That's hacking the system. Like, oh yeah, I fucking failed today. Like, cool. Like it's going to be valuable to other guys. So that's awesome. And yeah, I think that may have been the piece that you can build on, is actually having a team to go at it with. Yeah. Does all that make sense?
For sure. And that's, I guess it's I guess you call it a lack of confidence. But I also want to say it's like I lost that trust in my abilities, and there's that feeling of I can't handle failing again. So I'm not going to try. But yeah, with support, I can.
100%.
Yep. Now I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited to kind of watch the comeback, dude, and and see what version of that you want, and kind of step into a more kind of holistic or a more whole sense, rather than kind of and dude, I identify with what you're saying so much, man, where it was like I had a complete meaning void that I just would fill with stuff over and over and over. But the real thing that was bothering me was like I just wasn't pursuing the things that I found intrinsically meaningful, and all the other things that the things I would put in there just they just failed me. And again, it's like if you can just consciously structure your days, I swear that's for me, that was a super, like you were saying, like the self-discipline. You start think about the thing you want to do, envision it, and then what are the little action items, and then just fill, and more and more will pop up throughout the days. And if you can just fill your days with that, I just even when this stuff gets tough, it's still fulfilling because you know which way you're moving in. And it's like Wes was saying, it's not like some cerebral thing like, yeah, that would be cool. When you think about it, your whole body lights up and you feel that, and then you're just working in service of that feeling. I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I just mentioned on that, a lot of what I've been reading, been into, it resonates with me, is that concept of neuroplasticity. Your brain will literally physically change.
Yep.
You're taking those little actions each day. So I feel like I've got all these little nuggets, all these little insights over the years, and it's just been like, what the fuck? Why can't I implement them?
Yeah, I think, and again, none of us have any of the answers. None of us on this team know the answers. We're creating the answers as we embody it. So getting out of our heads and into our body and doing the actions and so on. And the other thing is like, dude, the Discord is amazing because there's activity on there all day long. Like the guys will post, hey, I just built this little fireplace in my backyard. Right. Like it's like those little things, man. Again, that feedback mechanism is like short and tight. And you'd be amazed the valuable that you can bring. Like, I'm 100%. You could hop off this podcast, 15 minutes from now and post something that you just learned. Boom, right there. You became valuable to another man. That other man might take that and then apply it to his kids that day. Like 100%. And Ray is saying in the comments that the losses are posted as well. 100%. And also Ray wanted me to ask you if you're okay with this. He wanted me to bring up.
Sure. I don't know about. I mean,
yeah. He wanted me to bring up father, lack of father leaving or dying or something. Ray, I hope I'm getting that right. I don't know if Brenton, if that's enough of a prompt for you, but he wanted me to bring that up.
Happy to talk about it, and I think being a men's group, that is something that, at least my upbringing and relationship with my father is complicated as was his with my grandfather. It just wasn't certainly any emotional talking about relationships. They're pretty old school, so I'm happy to do that, and I think there is value in that, especially in a men's group. My old man he passed away at 60. That would be about 10 years ago. Heart attack. Bipolar. That wasn't really diagnosed until the last kind of couple of years. So that mental health issues, I would say, or especially on my father's side, are very clear. He wasn't a drinker so much as food, other compulsive behaviors. In terms of his passing, I could say he was not a happy guy. He was not in good mental or physical health, and it was kind of one of those, what we call a blessing. But the next 10 years were not going to be fun for him. So I kind of take a bit of solace in that. In terms of our relationship, it was not a close one. I always felt, in his way, I felt loved. He was, wanted for nothing. There was always certainly financial provision. But I think the way he was raised and his relationship with his father, he just didn't know how to connect. So it was fairly dysfunctional. Or really, dysfunctional isn't the right word. What do you call when people are estranged? Mm-hmm. I don't think I talked to the guy for 10 years after I was from 10 years old to 20s. And then in my 20s, I matured a bit. I think he mellowed out a bit. And our relationship improved, the years before his death. But it was never easy going. I mean, I would certainly have to drink to get him on the phone and just deal with certainly, his mental health issues, but there was just no connection, and it felt like work, to talk, hang out with him. That said, I miss the guy, and it's I wouldn't say at this point in my living memory, or I don't know how you'd say that, but I think you still hold on to a little piece of people who you lose, whether they're really good friends or family, especially his father. I mean, he's the guy. So that mental relationship that I kind of still have with him really is one, I think, of acceptance, that he did the best he could and could have done a lot worse, never abused or anything. He was no dad of the year, but I think he tried his best, the tools that he had. And there's no. I think that aspect and that relationship is one that I've done a lot of work in therapy with it, but I found some resolution, and I would say I'm at peace with it. But that was, I guess I'd say that's my story with my old man. It was basically, I was a little fucking gangster as a kid. We neither of us had anything. We wanted nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
So I was probably like 20 something.
Yeah.
Wow, I really, no shit. The guy didn't like me. I stole money from him every day.
Yeah. Well, Brent, so what we're gonna do here is Matt and I've got a lot to chat through on this particular topic, and we're gonna do that real quick. But I wanted to thank you, man, for bringing your story, being part of the team, and you just gave us a really good topic to kind of jive through as well. But dude, the value that you're bringing, again, just by telling people your background and for everybody to know that you're on the team, I guarantee you're gonna have people reach out to you and saying, hey, I'm going through a similar issue. Like, what did you do here? What did you do here? I had that thing. Like, how did you do this? So thank you for joining, brother. We look forward to growing together and seeing your progress for sure.
Sure. Yeah. And I forget what his prognosis was exactly. It was bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, but anyone going through that with, someone in their lives, I can happy to talk about it because it can get pretty crazy. I mean, I say that jokingly.
Yeah, 100%. Well, hope to see you on the Discord and the practice sessions, and then again, thank you for joining, brother.
All right, cool.
Thanks, man.
Later, bud.
All right, bro.
So yeah, Matt, do you mind if I comment on that dad part?
Yeah, please, cool? Please.
So for those of you who don't know, so my dad left my mom when I was like 6 months old, and I kind of saw him every now and again, maybe leading up until like, I don't know, 4 or 5. That's the last time I saw him. But one exercise that really helped me is I went to Landmark Education. Again, that's one of those things that like 5% was really profound, 95% just wasn't necessarily for me. But one of the exercises they did there was they picked 2 random people, and I may have even told this story, but for those of you who haven't heard it, they picked the youngest, like an 18-year-old boy who looked like he just got off of like a 3-day bender, and then they picked a girl there who was like 19 years old who had tattoos from her eyebrows all the way down to her toenails, and they put these people up at the front of the room and they asked them to turn. They said they would, the moderator would turn to the boy and he says like, hey, what'd you do last night? And the kid's like, whatever, like, I blew some coke, I did all this stuff, like, and then he asked the girl, like, what'd you do last night? And they just have these like devastating lives. They're just partiers, right? They know nothing. The kid hasn't been to school in the last like 6 months because he realized that college, nobody's looking after you, like, your world's your own, and blah, 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 etc. So you hear how fundamentally disorganized and unskilled these 2 humans are, right? And they have them turn around to the crowd. And they say, the moderator says, I now pronounce you husband and wife. And everybody's like, what the hell does that mean? And they're like, here's the point. Do you understand that these 2 people standing in front of you right now who don't know anything about how the world works, who don't have an ounce of responsibility that they've taken in the last 6 months? These are your parents. Like, your parents were roughly the same age when they had you, right? Now, whether they're 18 or they're 22 doesn't matter, right? Like, but as we grow up, we have this hero syndrome that we think our parents are these gods and goddesses and that they're perfect beings. But going through that exercise, that's when I let go of the resentment for my father. It's like, oh, he's one of those. Like, he's just that guy up there who, like, he wasn't purposely trying to hurt me or anybody else around him. He's just as irresponsible as all men are, right? A Peter Pan, and just kind of messed up. But then the moderator says, like, okay, now that you know this, right? Now that you know this, it is now your responsibility to say, okay, I'm not reliant on my father or my mother for my progress from here on out.
Now that I'm aware of this, it's the responsibility is on me. So I can no longer say, oh, my dad broke me, right? Or, oh, my mom did this to me. You can no longer say that. Now you are aware that this path is your own. And by the way, count your blessings, just the fact that you're here and you live in America, like all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Like you've been dealt, especially here as men, dude, you can't get a better hand. The probability is 4% probability of being born in America, and we're male, right? Like you think about that. That's crazy. Like every bit of thing that we could get in this world, we can earn as a man. Unfortunately, for a lot of women, that's not the case. Like as a man, you can be ugly as hell and get a gorgeous woman. That game does not work in reverse for the most part. True. Right. And the older we get, the more attractive we get. Like the more wins you have under your belt. So it's like we need to stop complaining to ourselves, let go of the resentment that we have towards our mothers and fathers or whoever. It's like nobody has there's no dad on this earth that is to earn the Dad of the Year award. Nobody. We all have our flaws, and we will be the fathers that our kids are going to point to our flaws in the future. That's just the reality. Yeah. So we need to meet that reality and then build from there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, dude. And it's also when, an interesting thought pattern with that is like, again, it's like you can accept things and not, it doesn't mean like you like them or you're like, it's awesome. It's like you can just accept things. And like when you do that, I think a lot of that can start to pass through you rather than just being like first and foremost on your brain and kind of dictating your behavior. And then it's like, the question is like, okay, I understand you're upset. Obviously it's something to be very upset about, but it's like, and it's not in any way to like minimize it at all, but it's like, what age would you feel like it's time to kind of like move through that? Like, cause when you're 20, it's like, motherfucker, and 30, like that time you're 40 and 50, you're like, oh shit, I'm almost dead. You're like, I better start, and it's like, it's one of those things. And it's like when I would work with kids from high school, the high school I worked at before, they would tell me horrible stories, dude, of like stuff their parents did and continued to do in the house in ways they just like break them down. And it was horrific, man. And it's like, the only thing I would be able to say is like, this fucking sucks. You have to deal with this, but what are you going to do? You still have to go do the things you got to do, or you can let this swallow you up and consume you. It's like, it's not fair that you have to shoulder that, as well as like there's people who have perfectly free, let's say, I'm not going to say no one has like 100% like scot-free perfect life, but there's people who deal with, like you were saying, Wes, like you're in America, minimal family issues. There's always some shit because people just, are human, like minimal stuff, who still can't move past all of like the fear, anger, resentment, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, it has to be dealt with. It's a little easier, I feel like, if you don't have like these searing wounds. But it's like, it still must be done. And it's one of those things where it's like, and it's almost like the answer. Well, yeah, I'll say that the answer almost lies in just moving forward and doing all that stuff. That even if you just screaming and kicking, you don't want to do it. It's like, you just like, you kind of have to,
Dude, I would say you either like the very thing, Matt, that you're referring to out here in Orange County. Well, I'm back in Philly now, but where I live in Orange County, I would so much rather have the battle scars that I have that were just given to me as a result of whatever, not having a father, being poor, like all that stuff. So much rather have that than raised in a cushy lifestyle where I lack muscle.
Yeah.
Like, so that quote, perfect upbringing, dude, that is one of the biggest curses that you can have placed upon you. One of the biggest curses, because then you don't have any skill. You have no skill. You have no muscle. You have no substance as a man.
Yep.
And as a man, that's what's important. Like your looks only get you. That's what I'm saying. Like, dude, we're so lucky that, like, honestly, I hate even, like, I'm so lucky that I feel very lucky that I'm a male, because all of the results that I want can be earned. Unfortunately, I think society for women puts so much pressure on how they look, which I think is terrible. It's a sad reality, but like, I would not want to have that burden, because I don't know how you fix that. Right? Like, if you're unfortunately just a female who doesn't have what society says is beautiful, it's like, I feel so bad.
I see what you're saying. There's correctives. Yeah, there's correctives and there's stuff. Yeah. No, dude.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's like the dark world of, women's issues, which is they're deep and they're very confusing. And yeah, it's like, I'd say, it's just watch a good woman go give birth and you're just like, holy shit, that was a 50-50 roll of the dice. I don't have to do that. It's like, oh my God. And then it's fucking nuts, dude. The other thing too, going back to what you're saying, is like, those things that kind of those things that have the power to mentally crush a person, they can also really mentally vitalize people. I always kind of like to think of them as like the Infinity Stones. You know what I mean? Like from the Avengers. They're like these. There's so much fucking power in them, dude. And like if you try to touch them, you remember the end of the scene where they like try to touch the Infinity Stone? If you touch it yourself, you die. But when they all take a little bit of it, it kind of, you know, you can use it as like a mega fuel source. But I really think that's a way to put they're just your Infinity Stones, dude. It's like it's a power that can destroy you, or it's one that can, you know, you can, if you learn how to harness it, like Jesus Christ, you can do some stuff. It's just, you know, harnessing those things from a place of acceptance and peace, and still that the force of them is still there. But it's like, you know, you can either run on like dirty diesel fuel, or like try to run on some like, you know, next level zero field shit. And it's like, you know, so it's something that I think can like, and I definitely understand what you're saying. It's like, you know, if you can get to the point where you're thankful for all of your trials and tribulations and all the stuff that kind of like, you know, reduced you to tears as a younger person, I do think that's a really ideal place to be. And it's a place that can really push you into doing like crazy stuff. And it's something like, you know, crazy, awesome stuff. And it's also like for me personally, it was like I was kind of moving on like just pure unconscious, just like, you know, like, oh, I'm getting pussy. And it wasn't until I started having like crippling panic attacks. It was like, you know, at the time it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But looking back on it, I'm like, I'm so happy that happened to me, because it made me so conscious of the fact that people can hurt on a level that is like where they cannot function. And I didn't know that was a thing for real. Like I just was like, you know, you go around and do stuff. So yeah, that's like, you know, you take those and work through those rather than letting them consume you. It's like, it's amazing what they can kind of give life to.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I'm going to post, I just posted earlier, but the best therapy session I've ever received on my father leaving me is, here, I'll put it right here. Best therapy session, worth the money. It's free. It's on YouTube. It is called A Boy Named Sue by Johnny Cash song. I'll put it in it's not letting me post it again. I'm going to put it in the questions area. How do I do that?
If you hit
there you go. Yeah. Yep, there you go. I just posted it. So for anybody who's got kind of dad resentment or whatever, honestly, but especially like parent resentment, especially dad resentment, listen to that song real quick. It for sure made me cry the first, 50 times I listened to it. But it helped me tremendously, man. And it speaks to that, like, hey, your greatest curse is actually your greatest gift. So yeah, man. And one other thing, just want to thank you all, you guys. Like, look at the amount of people that showed up for this live session, and this is this is after party night.
Yeah, I'm
pretty
pumped,
cool.
Man. I'm pretty pumped on that, and I also, I think that's awesome. I also want to figure something out, and I think we can talk a little more. But I want to figure out how to do some like group fitness challenges, because I'm personally, I need them, man.
100%.
You know, I need that, and I want to figure out a way to structure that, and you know, so that when I did the running thing on the Under Armour app,
my heartstrings right now, bro.
Dude, that's something we can save that for Monday, because I'm about to pee myself. But I have thought about, I have a sub pump right next to me. I've thought about peeing in it so many times. I don't want to break that seal. So it's gonna be I'll take you to a dark place, dude.
Let him break that seal.
I don't want to enter that world, bro. Yeah, I don't want to enter that world, dude. But yeah, so dude, yeah, like we can brainstorm on that, come back on that Monday and start to kick up some of the fitness, like some more structured fitness stuff. I would love to do that. The same thing I did with almost like the Under Armour app, but like figure out a way to like do it in a way, because I just personally want to do like running body weight stuff, you know, and try to figure out metrics where people can kind of keep track and, you know, compete and cheer each other on.
100%. Yes. Let's definitely chat about that. Let's definitely implement it next week. And looks like the polls say that Brent is the dude of the week. Share it. Story coming on.
So if I'm correct, it's Ray has 2, Brent has 1, Delco Jim has 1, I believe.
Yeah.
And if I'm missing you, let me know, but definitely pipe up. But yeah, there's some people are very close to getting a dude of the month shirt, dude. And I'm excited just to make them. So
hell yeah. And we'll start formally tracking this more. Like, so hell yeah.
All right, dude.
All right, guys. Pee time.
Later,
dudes.